Coming up next on All About Android, I'm joined by Florence Ion and Ron Richards. We discuss Android 11 Beta 2 and the platform stability that is behind that. Also improving Android update times, a whole lot of leaks. We've got Google Nest Speaker, Pixel 4a was shown on the Google Store, and the Samsung Galaxy S7 Plus, as well as some big Google Play Pass expansion news happening. Ron checks out Hey, the app, and we have a couple of your emails and a whole lot more next on All About Android. All About Android is brought to you from LastPass Studios. You're focused on security, but are your employees? LastPass can ensure that they are by making access and authentication seamless, whether they're working in the office or remote. Visit lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust. This is TWiT.
This episode of All About Android is brought to you by LegalZoom. Don't let legal questions hold you back. LegalZoom is dedicated to helping you with the right solutions. Visit LegalZoom.com today to take care of the important things you need to get done. And by ZipRecruiter. Hiring is challenging, especially right now, but there's one place you can go where you can get a quality candidate within the first day. That place is ZipRecruiter. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Android. Hello, welcome to All About Android, episode 481, recorded on Tuesday, July 14th, 2020. Your weekly source for latest news, hardware, and apps for the Android faithful, and email, by the way. I'm Jason Howell.
And I'm Ron Richards.
And I'm Florence Ion.
Oh, yeah. It's the three of us today rocking it. Yeah. Rocking it to Papa Roach.
No, we're not.
No, don't. No, I'm sorry I brought that in the pre-show. You know, I'm just like, I'm at that age now where I keep trying to like relive my childhood.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. I'm sorry I brought you guys into that Twilight Zone. I should have just let you remain in your, I mean, we're already, I don't know. I guess anything is better than our reality.
Just keep digging, Flo. Just keep digging.
Look, Flo, I guarantee you, if you were to look back in any one of our kind of musical closet, you would find skeletons in there. I'm trying to think of who my skeleton
Not me.
Be.
Not me.
No?
Oh, okay, Ron. Okay.
Everything from your musical history is spot on.
Nothing but cool jams from the moment I was self-conscious in terms of music. So.
Sure. Yeah.
My first cassette tape was Quiet Riot, Mental Health. Yeah. See, there you go.
That's a good first cassette. Gotta say.
Good record. Come on, feel the noise. That's a good song.
Come on, feel the noise. Good pick. I couldn't tell you what my first cassette was. My first CD was, I think it was an Anthrax CD. Anthrax, Persistence of Time.
That's very on brand for you.
My first CD was Sgt. Pepper's, which I feel like is a formidable first CD. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, I'll own Persistence of Time, by the way. But what about you, Flo?
Mine was the Free Willy soundtrack.
It is. Says so much about you.
Listen, it had that SWV song on there that was really good, and that Michael Jackson song was, I loved that as a kid for some reason. I just really loved it.
My first vinyl record was probably Disco Mickey.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I gotta Google this.
Because I was born at an age where you bought kids records because we had record players, and also there was Sesame Street, Disney. They all had disco versions of their songs. Yeah. And Disco Mickey was the top of the charts.
I have to find this. I have to find these disco things for my kid. I feel like this is a good. Well, I know what I'm doing this week.
There's a great, and I apologize to the listeners of the show. I know you came here for Android news and discussion, but there is a track on Disco Mickey called Macho Duck, and it's about Donald Duck, and it's set to the sound of Macho Man. Yes. It's Macho Duck. And then he's like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So.
I thought when you mentioned Disco Mickey, that is possible that I had it. But once you mentioned Macho Duck, I know that I did. I had a record.
I don't think that song was legally cleared, by the way. I don't think that was legally okay. I guess it's parody, but sorry, Jason, you had a record.
This was a really, really good laugh. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
I was just saying I had a record that was called Jason, and it was a song that was just to me. A guy singing something about Jason, like, Jason, you're very special. That sort of stuff. It was a little 7-inch. It required the big adapter.
The thing. Yeah, like one of those things you buy at the theme park that they make for you while you're waiting for the ride.
Victor in our chat, our behind the scenes chat said, "What about the Star Wars disco record?" I also had that. It was a disco remix of the Star Wars theme by Migo or something like that.
Not good.
Oh, it was great. And I also had the Sesame Street disco record, which was Disco Grover. And it was a Saturday Night Fever parody, and you had Grover in a white suit. Really into the children's disco records.
I had the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack.
Star Wars and other galactic funk.
That's a good sound.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Oh, I love it.
Chef's kiss right here.
Shall we talk about some Android news or what?
Yes. And by the way, I can already envision the comment on YouTube. Someone commenting the time that starts now that says "get to right to the news." Just click this. So there you go. You're welcome. Burke, it's time for you to take us to the news.
Burke's voice is still in beta. Your mileage may vary. File a bug report with Android News.
Yeah, he's getting into
Burke.
I know.
Awesome.
I'm happy for this. I'm happy.
One of the best things of the pandemic was Burke got into it.
He's
all right,
he's embracing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, so big news this week as Android 11 Beta 2 rolled out. Very exciting. I also find it fun that I'm the one covering this one. I'm not the one who has access to the beta. So, Jason, I'm looking forward to hearing what you think of it. But so here's some of the things that's new in Android 11 Beta 2. Google says it's primarily about platform stability, which makes sense. They've had time of people hitting the Beta 1, so they're stabilizing the platform. They're making it solid enough for developers to begin final compatibility testing. But there are a few user-facing changes. And there's a lot of small things that are too small to mention, but some of the highlights worth mentioning are the media controls. These were developer options. These were a developer options feature. Now they're a full feature. They're no longer sandwiched in the mini quick settings menu, and they look much better this way. Screen recording now includes the ability to record device audio, which is key when you're doing a demo or some sort of you want the full video and audio. Share sheet now groups together intents by application, i.e. a Twitter tweet and DM grouped together in a dropdown. And you also got my computer's going wacky. The new preview links in Google Docs, by the way, in the spreadsheets throw me off when you see the whole
they're weird.
Preview of it. Yeah, it's weird. Anyway, so the 2+ camera API for developers is a new API that allows for 2 or more cameras on a device to be viewed or recorded simultaneously. We think about the applications of that. That's pretty crazy. And then coming out of this, as for Android 11's launch date, last week's Hey G Smart Home Summit, which, by the way, we need to discuss, saw the release of a video published by Google that included a slide that said September 8th, Android 11 launch. And Google has since pulled that video down. So it looks like we might have, we might be a little more than a month and a half out, a little less than a month and a half out from the launch, if that is to be believed. So Jason, I assume you have Beta 2. What is your review of it so far? Is it more stable for you? Are you accessing 2 cameras at once with that API or what?
Well, so I think the API it's a little bit of a separate issue. Like I don't know that we're necessarily seeing anything tapping into that quite yet, but we probably will.
I said that facetiously. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I didn't pick it. Darn you, Skype. I will say that the media control changes is much better. It used to be that it would like sandwich it up into this little mini row of quick settings when you did your first pull down, and then it would integrate with quick settings as the second pull down. It still was kind of I don't know, kludgy, but this time around they really kind of tweaked it to look like it's needs to be there, like it should be there. And of course, the fact that they pulled it out of developer options proves that they feel like it's good enough to be there for everyone. So I like that a lot. Other than that, it's really hard to find any changes. There's a few, very minor things that I didn't even put in here. By the way, I put you in charge of this story because little behind the scenes, like behind the curtain view into how when I'm putting this show together, I try and make it so that each of us leads the top story, like in a row. So like, if I did it last week and floated it the week before, then you do it this week, regardless. So that's why.
Oh, a little behind the scenes fact I didn't even know.
Together. Never knew that, but wow.
These are the little things Jason thinks of that Flo and I take for granted.
These are the Virgo things that Jason thinks of. So anyways, but yeah, I mean, I didn't find the previous beta to be very unstable, to be honest. I thought it was pretty solid. The developer preview is not nearly as much so, but the developer over the beta 1, pretty stable. I hardly ran into any issues personally. And this one, not running into any issues either. So yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say they've done a good job as far as that's concerned. And developers can now get really busy making their apps compatible.
I think the bigger issue with the last beta is just the way that third-party apps work with it, because that was where I ran into a lot of problems. And anyway, I'm on the OnePlus 8 now, so it's a kind of a moot point. But at the same time, it is nice to be able to have stable apps when you need them. And what can you do? It's a beta. It's not for everybody yet. It's fine.
Well, you can run the beta on the OnePlus 8 also, right? Like, have you
but I don't want to.
You don't want to.
Maybe I should. Maybe I should try that out though, because I mean, I try out the Google version all the time, so maybe I should try out how OnePlus is doing it behind the scenes with Oxygen OS. Which, by the way, like, serious kudos to them for being so quick with that, because I think that's part of the reason I feel so safe being on the OnePlus 8 versus like a Pixel. So it's nice to have that security, which is not a thing that comes easily in the Android world.
Yeah, that is true. So and I don't know if that release date is trustable, but it seemed with Google's kind of response to it, you could probably imagine that it's probably close to the truth. That's kind of about when these official versions have been launching, though. So I think last year it was sometime early September as well. It was maybe right even around then. So it's not that far out of the realm of believability as far as that's concerned. Nothing that happened not too long ago is Google had a Reddit AMA and Ask Me Anything. Google engineers, or Android engineers rather, took part in that. There were some nuggets. A lot of it, it was really meant for developers. So a lot of the stuff in there is kind of detailed and nitty gritty that developers are going to appreciate more than, let's say, users. But some highlights that I was able to pull out: scrolling screenshots, which for a while had been thought to be an upcoming feature in Android 11. They confirmed that's not going to make it into Android 11. It didn't make the cut, they said. They also mentioned at some point that they're looking not to bake this in as a feature in Android, but as an API that third-party developers can tap into to have some sort of seamless approach on how they do scrolling screenshots. So, some people might be bummed to hear that and want Google to do it instead, but there you go. Also, background app restrictions. They mentioned that OEMs must now notify users when app restrictions are applied in the background. That might be limiting performance of apps. There's been a whole lot of talk about this the last couple of weeks. Ryan over at Android Police wrote a really good article about this, so you should definitely check it out. But it's all about, like how different manufacturers and Android itself manages the power usage behind the scenes, and how it's really difficult for developers to kind of keep up pace with that. So Google wants OEMs to be sure to notify the users when that's actually happening or when it's expected to happen, and also treat all apps equally. So if they're saying, hey, your Facebook or Instagram or WhatsApp, we're going to give you priority over other things, they don't want that happening anymore. They want all apps to be treated equally as far as that's concerned. And a little bit of stuff around backups, making things easier for developers who are looking to build robust device-to-device backup tools, things like Samsung's Smart Switch. They're not focusing at all on laptop and desktop backup. So if that's what you're hoping for, you're probably not going to get it from Google. In fact, they're phasing out ADP backup in a future OS release. So they're kind of getting rid of some of this stuff that you might hope they wouldn't. So there you go. If backups are important to you, that's something to know. But an interesting AMA. It's always nice when they kind of open things up and see what everybody has to ask them, and they're open to answering. So that's the AMA. Yeah. I don't know. Any thoughts on that from you guys? Were you able to look through that, or?
I didn't get a chance. I mean, I'm glad that they did it, especially considering that I/O didn't happen, and they want to keep that kind of dialogue going with developers. So, like, I'm glad that happened. And they've got this kind of whole world situations requiring companies to take a different approach to how they would manage these kind of communications. So I'm glad that Google is trying to find ways to make that communication as opposed to just going totally insular. So yeah, glad to see it.
Yep.
Yeah,
cool.
And I know the backups thing is might sound like a really annoying thing. I was just thinking about it because when I heard you say that, I was thinking, but backups are really important. That's a thing that's really important to me. But it made me realize that part of the reason they wouldn't do anything desktop focused, like a desktop backup solution, is because the whole point of this platform is to stay mobile. Or at least that's my sort of thinking. So hopefully they do something in the mobile.
Yeah, and what is more mobile? Like, what is more friendly to mobile? Is it having to plug into a single device that sits on your desktop at home, or is it just seamlessly uploading this stuff to the cloud? And the next time you restart your phone, install a new version of your operating system or switch phones or whatever, you didn't even have to think of it because it was already sitting in the cloud waiting for you to do it. And that's the Google approach, and that's what I think they're really doubling down on.
Exactly. So I think that's a good way to look at that. I think this is also a good time for us to move on to our next little news tidbit, which is, we might not have that updated pie chart of Android usage numbers, but we do have some information on where we are at with usage stats. Wow, that word is kind of hard to say. So Google did share some progress that it's made with improving its Android update times. So Android 10 is currently on 400 million devices, which is a pretty vast number just to think about that number in of itself. That is 400 million devices in just 10 months. It's also in the last 5 months, it's been 100 million devices, faster than any of the previous versions of Android, and also 28% faster than Android Pie. And thanks to Project Mainline, which we have talked about plenty on the show, we even talked to the Google execs, the Android execs, about how this was implemented. Mainline has 21 OS components so far, and that includes Project Treble and Android One. And the OEM dev previews are helping with this adoption rate. So all of those little things that we've talked about on this show that Google's talked about to make Android better, it's been incremental, but we've seen progress and the numbers prove it. So this is good.
Would you say it's working? Like all this time now, is this the answer that what their master plan was is taking effect and having success?
That's a good question, because it's like when I think about it quickly, I go, oh yeah, that's great. Adoption is great. But I will say, like, anecdotally, again, I had a hard time saying that word. I will say that it feels like updates have come faster. I don't know. It feels like I have more options for phones that are more recent on more recent versions of the software than in previous years. So I guess it is working. Maybe this was it. Maybe let's give it a little bit longer to see how we do in like this current time period and how that's going to affect it overall, because phone sales are going to be affected this time. So if phone sales are affected, how does that affect version numbers?
Good point. Very good point.
Yeah. And no matter how you look at it, if you go down the rabbit hole of comparing to iOS, you're never going to be satisfied as an Android user as far as, how many devices are up to date and when by comparison. They're just entirely different platforms. This is better than it had been. Therefore, by that metric, sure, I would imagine all these things that were specifically designed to tackle this particular problem are working, because that number has reduced. The amount of time has reduced, and many more devices at the same amount of time compared to previous versions are updated at this point in time. So definitely improvement. But it'll never be as good and as close to iOS numbers. It's just not going to be.
It just can't. It can't be. Yeah, it's apples and oranges. Yeah.
It's apples and tomatoes.
Oh, it's apples and what was Android 11 going to be? R. It's apples and raspberries.
There you go. It's apples and raspberries. Yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
True.
All All right. Well, before we move on, Jason, I have to admit I'm a little disappointed because I just noticed in watching you talk that you have a little mic cube above your microphone on your video setup for those watching the video, and you don't have the new All About Android on the little black box above your microphone. I feel like that's a perfect spot for the little All About Android logo. Yeah. So
you're
those
so
watching
right.
the video,
I have to go to our store and find the mic cube section.
There it is.
The mic cube sticker section that we totally actually don't have. But I'm not, sure to be honest, something out.
I wouldn't be surprised because we are a bunch of nerds and we love our AV equipment and we love branding. So throw a logo on there. Why not?
I think it's. And by the way, if anyone wants to find TWiT gear, if you didn't know, twit.tv/store will take you to the store. I don't know if the new Android All About Android logo is up there yet. It really should be. I will look, but this is not an ad about our store. Oh yeah,
never know.
Hands on Android. Okay.
No, it's not.
Anyways.
So while Jason's looking that up, we will thank our first sponsor of the evening, and we want to thank LegalZoom for sponsoring this episode of All About Android. And as we all know, we wake up every day, and the fact is that it's a whole new world out there. We're faced with new challenges, stuff we never even anticipated. And if you need legal help to overcome some of your challenges, that's where LegalZoom fits in. You know, maybe you've been wondering about the best way to protect your family, or maybe you're thinking about starting a business, but you don't know the best way to do it. Don't let legal questions hold you back. The last thing you want to do is have a legal obstacle in your way and keep you from fulfilling your dream. So LegalZoom has been dedicated to helping you with the right solutions for more than 19 years. If you're looking to protect your family with a will or a living trust, or you're thinking about the right way to start a business with a DBA, an LLC, or want to start a nonprofit, or other ways to start a business, LegalZoom's got you covered. And it's easy to get started online. If you need guidance, their network of attorneys can provide advice to ensure you make the right choices. And since LegalZoom isn't a law firm, you won't have to leave your home and you won't get charged by the hour, which is key. And I've talked about on the show before, I've started small businesses. I've done, kind of little, I've dabbled in entrepreneurship and things like that. And the mistakes I made 20 years ago before I had LegalZoom, when I was going to the library and looking in books on how to start a business and the right way to set up a contract and do all this sort of stuff, all that stuff, all those answers are there. LegalZoom has the resources that you need to find it to make sure you don't screw it up. Because when you're putting pen to paper and trying to protect your family with will or living trust, you don't want to get that wrong. When you're starting a business, you want to dot all your I's and cross your T's, and you want as much accuracy and correctness, because you will pay for it down the road if you don't. And that's why we thank LegalZoom for doing what they do. So visit LegalZoom.com today and take care of some of the important things you need to get done. That's LegalZoom.com. LegalZoom, where life meets legal. Thanks, LegalZoom.
Thank you, LegalZoom.
And now we've got a leaky hardware section.
Yes, lots of leaks edition in this edition of hardware.
Leaky.
Let's do it. Leaky. The leaky ship.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing it's a leaky hardware section, because we do love leaks.
Yeah, we love talking about them. We plan on talking about them.
Or you put them in a nice dish if you're cooking and you throw in a couple of leaks in there. They always make the meal a little better.
Oh, so. You went in a different direction.
I love a leek more than onions.
There it is.
I leak what you did there. Okay. Yeah, all right. I am a dad after all. Okay, remember when there were tons of Pixel 4 leaks months ahead of the expected release? This was last year. Google just went ahead and posted official photos of it and really got out there to try and control the narrative around it. Well, we wondered if Google would do this again, and they have, although they aren't doing that necessarily with the Pixel 5 or even really the Pixel 4a at this point. This time they're doing it with the Google Nest speaker. Apparently a Japanese regulatory body, basically an FCC equivalent, posted photos of the of an upcoming, unreleased, unheard of, updated Google Home speaker. The photos themselves weren't the most appealing photos in the world, really bland, kind of, bumped up right next to a ruler so you could see exactly what it measured and everything. Not very flattering, let's say. And so Google then decided, I think like a day or two later, to just go ahead and release an official photo of the device. Also a little short like video, like a splashy kind of promo video that plays really nice on social media. Definitely, yeah. So these are the FCC kind of photos of it. It's just kind of bland. I mean, it gives you an idea of what the device looks like and everything, but kind of bland. And they came out and posted something more official. So apparently this is part of Google's playbook on how they deal with leaks, sometimes anyways. But I'm curious to know what you guys think, because the original Google Home, the very first one, the kind of tall cone-shaped one, kind of teardrop-shaped with the removable base and everything, it hasn't really been updated since it launched. So this would be the first major revision of that. And it's very different. It's like fabric all around. It kind of looks like, I don't know, kind of like a cubish loaf of bread. I don't know how to explain it.
Yes.
The power plug on the old Google Home, it had this really nice kind of like hidden underneath plugging in mechanism. This one doesn't seem to have that. It's like a port on the back that you just plug right into. So that's a little, I mean, that feels like a step down. But some people are wondering if maybe this is like a portable Google Home. Like you can unplug it, it has battery that's charged up inside, and you could take it out to the lawn, which is what we do with our Google Home. We've got a battery accessory for it, and we love it. We use it every day. So what do you guys think?
That'd be cool. The portable one would be cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've gotten pretty addicted to my Google Home with the screen though.
Yeah.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yeah.
Your kids haven't gotten old enough to be obsessed with it.
Oh, no, they are. I mean, they definitely. Okay. Fun fact: if you go to Google Home and say, "Hey G, what sound does a dog make?" It'll show you a picture of a dog and play dog barking, and the kids love that.
Okay.
But the old, I've got the old Google Home in the kids' bedroom for music and things like that. And honestly, I find myself using it way less because I just like the visual aspect of it. But having a portable speaker with the Google Home in it and all that sort of stuff, like think about what you just said there, Jason, is that you guys have a external battery that you plug into and you use it all the time. That's exactly the kind of use case. They're like, all right, well, people are using it this way, so let's make a product that can do that.
Yeah. And it's really slick. Like, I can't remember the name of the third party. We covered it on the network years ago. I mean, pretty soon after the Google Home
I remember
released.
that.
And if you remember on the initial, for those who don't remember, on the initial, the original version of the Google Home, the whole bottom kind of like unscrews out, and the speakers are down there, but you can replace it with attachments. And so the battery is like, it's like an extension of that bottom base that has a battery in it. So when it's plugged in like it usually is, it's got the battery all charged up, and then if you want it to be a portable speaker, you just unplug it, take it with you, and the battery lasts for like 5 hours. It's awesome. I love it. Like, it's one of those features that the more we used it, the more I realized, like, I wouldn't enjoy the Google Home nearly as much as I do without this extra third-party feature attached to it. So I would be really bummed if they released this and it didn't have that, because this doesn't appear to have that ability to add a third-party accessory to it. So I would lose that capability. But I don't know, Flo, are you excited by these photos?
Well, I mean, you saw my tweet that I made over the weekend about the fact that I'm just not on board with the whole fabric covering of these speakers. I much prefer the way of the Lenovo Smart Display, which is easily wipeable with like a surface cleaner or with a little soap and water. I kind of feel like sometimes the people who design these things aren't the people who clean the house.
That's for sure.
I'm dead serious, because I'm the one that tends to pick up around the house, and I have one of these things in the baby's room. And so that's where a lot of messes are bound to happen. And I had said on Twitter that the thing that happened was the Nest Hub, the fabric base of it sopped up some milk that was spilled onto the surface, and it's not really fixable. It's not a fixable situation. It's permanently stained. And if you get really close to it, it's a little stinky. So, I'm just thinking about that because I understand what Google's trying to do with this aesthetic, kind of make this device a part of what already exists in your home, especially if you go to like any big box store, well, you're not right now because you should be at home, not going out. But if you go online, do some online shopping, you'll see that a lot of furniture is the cloth that it's covered in. I mean, even like the couch I have here in this room is very similar to this idea of like what Google's doing with its smart speakers. And I just bring that up because I feel like that might work when you look at it spot on, but it's not a utilitarian thing. And we can't forget about that part of these things. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe I've gone a little off topic, but it's hard for me to be excited about something with a battery when I'd be very scared to take this outside. Definitely. This is not.
It's all fabric-y.
It doesn't look rugged. It doesn't look rugged enough. If it had like rubber.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, like those JBL speakers that look like they go outside. Yeah.
Or that's an aspect I hadn't considered. But sorry, I just wanted to say even the original Google Home, but without the fabric base. Like just make it plastic or something, a little more, rugged.
Right. And that is what that battery attachment that I have on my Google Home, it is not fabric. I'm trying to remember it in my mind's eye. And it's more of like a metal attachment. So that's an aspect I hadn't even considered on this thing. You're right. Like it's fully fabric. Probably a good idea to not take that outside because it's not going to take very much to, much of an accident outside for it to get stained or whatever. I had the experience this morning of making a protein shake and forgetting to seal the top of the lid on the blender. And so I started it and went, and it totally did exactly what you're talking about. It like jumped out on the Google Home, and actually the one in the kitchen is one of the fabric ones. So like, it's like, all right, I guess that's good enough. Try to wipe it off.
It's just, I'm trying to just make, again, just to put a seal on it, I'm trying to make more of a comment just about this basic aesthetic that Google's going for with its home products. Because I'm just thinking about it compared to like what Lenovo has done, and Lenovo has added some fabric to theirs, and I'm, I don't know. It's it is what it is.
Yeah. that it is. It is what it is. That it is.
It's just my general mood lately. Sorry, y'all.
At least they aren't making the Pixel phones out of fabric. Well, I guess
I was going to say, should we move on to another extension of Google's design paradigm, which is the Pixel 4a? And I know that we keep talking about it and it still doesn't exist, I guess. I mean, we're still wondering, when is it finally going to be announced? Maybe we'll know soon. An official image of the 4a has hit the Canadian Google Store online. It was briefly up there, of course, and then it was removed. So somebody maybe accidentally pushed launch, or somebody's purposefully teasing us because everyone's bored at home. The date widget on the display showed May 12th, which means it probably would have been announced at Google I/O, or at least included in, the materials, the media materials that they have around the time of the developer conference. Google did leak more details about the phones in its search app, however. A Pixel 4a 5G version is in the works, along with the Pixel 5. However, the 4a 5G version and the Pixel 5 will both run the Snapdragon 765. And I think we're trying to distill to the point of, what does this all mean in the context of it all? And do we think that, maybe these phones are being smushed together in terms of launch time because of the current state of everything? What do you guys think?
I don't know. It's so confusing. Like,
it's definitely the current state of things, period. Period. But Jason, go on.
Well, no, I'm just trying to think. Okay, so you've got the 4A, which we still don't know when it's. All I'm trying to do is understand the rationale, because I get it. It's really complicated right now, but they've got to try and figure some compelling story on whatever amount of devices that they have to release, so that people aren't confused about what one to get in the first place. They've got the 4A, which was supposed to have already come out, but now it's being delayed. We don't know if it's going to come out at the launch of the 5 or if it's going to come out sometime soon. Who the heck knows? It could come out anytime, because these photos are leaking, and maybe that means something. All right, so fine, the 4A. Then you got the 4A 5G, which has the same processor supposedly as the Pixel 5, which is supposed to be the next latest and greatest big premium flagship smartphone, although this year it's not going to be a premium smartphone. It's going to be a mid-range, which is what the 4A, which is what the A series actually is. Meanwhile, you've got the A, the mid-range device, running the same processor as the 5, which is the premium device usually. It's so confusing. I can't even follow along with like what I'm supposed to get depending like on where I sit. There's not going to be an XL of the 5, supposedly. There's going to be one size. So is the 5 actually the XL and the 4A 5G is the regular 5 in this weird magical world?
For our audio listeners, Jason has a crazy wall behind him where he's stringing strings to different model numbers and explaining conspiracy theories, and it's really out of hand. And now my head hurts because it is a mess. It's a mess. It's a total mess.
The reality is like no one knows, right? Like this is all guessing and stuff based on leaks. Google knows, and you have to imagine
maybe they don't know. Maybe this is all a change in plans because, again, of the current state of everything. And this is just what works. I am very curious how if we do end up with the 4A 5G /5 situation, I'm curious how that's going to go, with people because they've been so used to having to choose between these two models and these two sizes. I mean, I know of couples who have both bought the Pixels and have gotten different sizes because of the size, differentiation. So I wonder, I don't know.
Or are they the same size and it's the materials that's the difference? I guess what I'm trying to figure out is if there is a 4A 5G and the 5 also supports 5G and the 4A 5G and the 5 have the same processor, then what is the differentiation between the two? Is it the materials of the device? The 4A 5G is made of plastic and the 5 is made of glass and aluminum. And is that enough to differentiate them?
Probably also camera.
Right, an additional camera.
Some aspect of
Sorry.
Something. No Soli.
Exactly.
No Soli.
No special je ne sais quoi. It's just like a whatever. It's just a phone. It's a phone for the people with 5G.
It's the people's phone.
The Pixel 5. Exactly. It's just a phone. It's just that would be the promotional push for it.
It's a good marketing. It's just a phone.
The other thing that's coming to my mind is I'm just thinking, listen, if Apple can do it by selling the SE and whatever model number they're on, then maybe Google could do it. I just feel like you'd have to give the 4A a completely different, moniker for it to truly work in that manner. But I feel like because they've already trained us to think about the product line this way, like maybe they're just too afraid to shake it up, even though I feel like this would be the time to shake it up. I mean,
yeah, totally. You're kind of forgiven a little bit. So, and maybe that's what Google thinks. Like, we'll be forgiven. Everybody's world is turned upside down right now. We'll be forgiven on these decisions, and maybe we will forgive them. I don't know. It's just hard to understand at this point what we're leading up to.
But it's certainly fun to think about.
I was gonna say it's kind of exciting. It's we won't know what's gonna happen, and there's probably very little chance that we'll predict it. And so I think it's an exciting time to be alive.
Sure, Ron.
I appreciate your optimism.
Sure, yeah, there you go. But also, if you're a Samsung fan, it's an exciting time to be alive because there's Samsung leaks as well too. What a great week it is. So as we all know, August 5th is all about the Galaxy Note 20, but new leaks from Sam Mobile point to a tablet release to happen then as well. And if you had on your bingo card for crazy Android summer a new Samsung tablet, you would be a winner. The Galaxy Tab S7 and S7 Plus series, both with S Pen support and, of course, DeX support, which I like DeX. And the Samsung Tab S7 Plus features a Snapdragon 865 Plus processor with 8 gig of RAM and 256 gig of storage with 5G support, a 10,900 milliamp battery, 45 watt fast charge, and a 13 megapixel and 5 megapixel rear cameras and an 8 megapixel front camera, an ultrasonic fingerprint sensor. And I don't know, if you're in the market for a tablet, you might want to wait and see what Samsung's going to have, because it seems like a upgraded tablet. And those I was just talking to somebody the other day who loved their Galaxy Tab. It is a very fine device that I feel like doesn't get enough love in general, much less on this program. So
I still use the Tab S3, by the way, because it has the S Pen capability, and it's kind of neat to have that sometimes. When we moved into this house, I had to do I needed to just do a lot of planning, and it was the kind of thing that was really, I like to be able to take, clips from the internet, like images and things like that, and sort of incorporate them into like a blueprint for how to design things. And I like to be able to do that with a tablet, and I'm glad that at least Samsung's still carrying the torch. I feel like Samsung is the one carrying the torch for a lot of these peripheral like technologies that Google sort of put dormant, like tablets, wearables.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Maybe some would argue the audio peripherals as well, just because, there's a different situation there. So thanks, Samsung.
Thank you, Samsung. Yeah, I got my daughter for her birthday, this was a couple of months ago, the Galaxy Tab A 10.1, and it's a great tablet. Like, I've used it a number of times. She is not a stringent user. Really, for her, it's YouTube Kids and Roblox, but it does great for those things, and I've played on it too. And
sometimes that's all you need. Your YouTube and your Roblox, and you're happy. Yeah,
that's all she needs for her tablet time every single day. That's all she needs. Believe me, that makes her happier than ever. So
for me it's Nintendo and 90 Day Fiance. But anyway, let's
yeah, now if we got a Nintendo Switch in the house, it would be a totally different story.
You would never see your children again. But yes,
I know. Believe me, I know. But I want one. That's the thing. So who knows? It might just happen. Let's take a break and thank the sponsor, and then we'll get into some app news. This episode of All About Android is brought to you by ZipRecruiter. We're talking all the time lately about how difficult this moment in time is, and that extends to hiring, right? It can be super difficult, especially if you're a company that's trying to hire right now. You're facing all new challenges that you probably haven't faced before. Well, Housing Wire could relate. They needed to hire an ambitious reporter to help cover news stories on the U.S. housing markets, which are also in flux right now. So they turned to ZipRecruiter, and that's how Housing Wire found Alexandra Roja. Alexandra never imagined that she could get a reporter job during COVID-19. Everybody thinks, well, it's COVID-19. There's a lot of people out of work right now. It's a horrible time to find a job. And for many, that they're right, but there's also jobs to be found if you know the right places to look, if you know the right ways to do so. She created a profile on ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter matched Alexandra to Housing Wire's reporter job because her degree and her writing skills were actually a great fit for the role. So Housing Wire received her application 4 hours after they posted the job. And a few weeks later, Alexandra started her dream career. And that was it. It was all done kind of for Alexandra, for Housing Wire. And that's really what the system is all about. It's designed to make that matching, to know who's out there and apply their skills to your position. Let ZipRecruiter help you hire and see why 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it now for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Android. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Android. ZipRecruiter is the smartest way to hire. And we thank them for their support of All About Android. All right. It's time to talk about some apps. Let's do it.
Well, I can finally bring some of my friends overseas into my Play Pass realm. So I'm really looking forward to this. And I'm looking forward to all the new apps that you're going to be able to use if you're living in Australia, Canada, France, Germany, Ireland, Italy, New Zealand, Spain, and the United Kingdom. You all have access to the Google Play Pass now. And you know me, I'm always trying to kind of tell you what you get from it. I don't know if folks are going to have, actually, there's a new annual pass option for $29.99 a year, $30 a year, which is still a little more than I'm paying right now. It's still a little more than I'm paying right now, but
less than what you'd be paying when it switches over to the, what is it supposed to be on a monthly basis? $4.99. Yeah, so that would end up being less. So it's kind of like halfway. It's the halfway point. You're not going to get $1.99 a month.
Exactly.
But, yeah.
And honestly, guys, go into your receipts in your email and see how many times you pay for an app. If you're paying for a lot of apps.
Oh, yeah. And then just dance. If you're paying for a lot of apps, then you know you want to do the happy dance. That's what you got to do. Oh, heck yeah.
This is rude.
That really came out of nowhere.
Really? I was like, oh, God, is that my computer? Like,
this is fantastic. I like the idea of just randomly adding a soundtrack to these stories.
Certainly lifts them up a little bit. So I have the annual or the Google Play Pass, and I find so often that I'm looking for an app that I hear about or whatever, and I jump in there. I'm like, whoa, it's part of Play Pass. That's awesome. Do you find the same thing, Flo? Like, I'm actually really impressed by the kind of the spread, the quality of the apps that are there.
More and more. And as this little news tidbit says, Google Play has actually added 150 new apps and games. So I'm going to need to go in there and I don't know. It's also become sort of a thing that I do now. If I'm a little bored at a scene on TV, I'll just kind of like scroll through my phone and be like, what has Google added to my Play Pass today? I did that a lot more, of course, when we had the arena going, but I'm still doing that because you never know what you might find and what you might already be paying for.
Yeah. Well, and Google also, when you open the Play Store, at least it's this way for me, and I don't know if it's only this way for me because I am subscribed to Play Pass, but like the very first page is Play Pass stuff. It's the very first tab. So if it's
because you pay for it.
Okay. All right. I was going to say, if that's for everyone, wow, you're really pushing it in front of everybody.
Because my husband doesn't get that.
Okay. But I mean, it's the first thing you see when you open the Play Store. It's actually a great way to kind of browse and see the value of what you're paying for.
I want to check and see if his does it because I pay for the Play Pass and it's on the family plan. And that's the nice thing about it is you could pay $30 a year and you unlock. There's so much kid stuff on there now, I will say. And I mean, back in the day, pre-kid, I wasn't looking at this stuff, but now I'm like, oh, wow, this is going to be like a good deal in a couple of years when they, unlock more things. And I just put a device in my kid's hand. So
Totally. I think, they're doing the approach differently than Apple did with their, I can't remember what they call it, Apple Arcade. But I think it's kind of proven its value, at least in my use of it and kind of seeing what apps end up there over time. I'm pretty happy with it. So anywho,
plus,
yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to add one more thing, which was I wonder if these apps also get vetted by Google, which might make you more inclined to use it.
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone can just say, all right, add my, or maybe so. I feel like it's kind of a curated list, and that's why you're only seeing like 150 new apps instead of like 5,000,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. I would be actually very curious to hear from developers. If we have developers on the show, and especially if you're a developer that has an app or a game in Play Pass, please email us, AAA@twit.tv. Let us know what you think about the value proposition now that we're into this service, many months now. How has it worked out for you? I would love to hear from someone and see what you have to say about that. Let's see here. So, Ron, Microsoft and Google heard that you like progressive web apps. Do you still like progressive web apps?
I do like progressive web apps. I like the concept of progressive web apps. Okay. I think my experience with developing a progressive web app and now doing a native app might have changed that opinion, but I still like the concept, and I'm glad to hear Microsoft and Google are teaming up to make them better. How are they doing it, Jason?
Yeah. So they're partnering up to create PWAbuilder.com, progressive web app, PWA. PWAbuilder.com. It's an open source developer tool for creating progressive web apps, and also integrating tools in there to bring it to the Play Store. That last part, from what I understand, is courtesy of Google's Bubble Wrap tool that actually generates a signed Play Store package from progressive web apps that are created. But it allows you to kind of plug in your website, if you have a website, You can plug it into the tool, see the requirements that are checked off the boxes or whatever. Like I ran TWiT through there just to see, and there's so many things that are missing from the TWiT site in order for it to be a good progressive web app, let's say. And it knows what it's looking for. So it tells you kind of like, you're missing this, you need to make sure this is there, blah, blah, blah. It kind of guides you through the process of taking your existing site and making it PWA applicable, and then going even further and going through the process of like making the progressive web app and submitting it to the Google Play Store and getting it up there. So pretty cool tool. Developers, have a lot of control over how the PWA looks when it's finished. They can customize the app splash screen, tweak some deep push notification support, customize appearance of things like the Android status bar, the navigation bar on the PWAs, that sort of stuff, and a whole bunch of other stuff that I didn't understand. But if you're a developer or you have a site and you want to make it a progressive web app, and this is a tool to help you do that. And
you know why they're doing this, right?
Cool. No. Why?
Because the Surface Duo
Oh, okay.
needs apps. The Surface Duo needs apps to make the Surface Duo sell to Florence Ion.
Yeah, it's true.
And what a better way than to have Microsoft apps work seamlessly and flawlessly on a variety of platforms.
Yeah. So are they going to take? So then I'm trying to parse this. So, but they don't need to take like Microsoft Office and make that progressive web app out of it, do they?
I mean, no, they have the Android apps, and I know people are going to bring up the fact that those Android apps I think they already have split screen support in them, just because of the whole foldable phone craze that's been going on. But I just think about how this will make it a lot easier for Microsoft to kind of have a value add if it decides to go the route of doing the Android thing again.
Okay.
So I'm just thinking with regards to the Surface Duo, it comes out. It supposedly goes for sale this holiday season. So if that's for sure, then we need to have apps that are compatible with it, or at least work nicely with what is there. And I don't know. I'm thinking kind of big picture about this. I can't quite speak to specifics, but I feel like it just kind of falls in line with everything else we've been reading about that launch.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yep, indeed. Cool. So progressive web apps. Maybe they will win you over again, Ron.
Maybe. I'll keep my mind open. Why not?
All right, Ron.
But yes. So getting to this week's App Spotlight. Also, Jason and Flo, I realized as I was working on this week's App Spotlight, realized that I know we've said goodbye to the Arena. And I saw that on our good friend who was doing the spreadsheet database that was tracking all the apps, put a little sunset graphic on it, which is nice. We might need to keep track of these app spotlights, because my fear is that I'm going to dupe one that we've done in the past. Yeah, so
still run into the same issue.
Yeah, if you're listening out there, maybe we not sunset that tool and we keep it going. But anyway, just a thought. So as I was going through, we're rotating weeks, and so it's my week, and I was like, all right, well, what is truly an app that is a Ron app? What is you guys listen all about Android, you know that I'm going to bring you wacky keyboards or wacky launchers or things like that. But another major category that Jason, you can attest to, that over close to a decade I've been tracking has been email, right? We use email is such a integral part of our computing experience, and one of the first applications when any smartphone came out was an email app. And from that day forward, we've been looking forward to the email app that will make our lives so much easier and make it so great. I don't know if I have that for you today, but I definitely have a new take on email. And not only is it an app, but it's an entire new platform akin to when Gmail launched. So this is your opportunity to get in on the ground floor of potentially could be something pretty cool. If you're familiar with the company 37 Signals, they're the people behind a collaboration tool called Basecamp, as well as some other web-based tools that I've used over the years. They have HiRise for contacts and really interesting kind of web-based applications. Well, apparently they looked at email and they said, we're going to tackle email, and they came up with this new email platform called Hey. just HEY. And you can go find it at hey.com, which good job for them that they bought hey.com. And of course, they have an Android and iOS app to support it. So before we get into the app, it's important to understand what the platform is like. And actually, Burke, if you go to hey.com, you can see their website. Specifically, they didn't set out to make a new email app. They set out to, in their own words, reinvent email. And I'll give them credit that it's actually pretty impressive. If you click on the upper top of the website, Burke, on how it works, you can see there's some more visual stuff there in terms of exactly what they're doing. And the nav is just how it works for those watching on the video. What they've done is they've created something instead of an inbox. It's called an inbox for important IM inbox.
Oh, okay. Inbox.
And what it allows you to do is it allows kind of more aggressive filtering in terms of your emails to make sure you're getting the emails you want. But what they've also done is they've introduced email screening. So whenever you get an email, and actually I'm sharing my screen, and so Burke, we can go right into the demo and I can show it to you. Whenever you get an email from someone for the first time, before you actually see that email, you get a message in the app that says, screen first time sender. So here we are. Those watching on the video can see this is my screen. Up top it says screen first time sender. So I'm going to tap that and it's going to tell you, hey, I just got an email. I sent an email from my own personal account. And it says this person's trying to email you. Do you want to hear from them or not? And you could say no, and you will never get an email from that person ever again. It's like call screening, right? Or you can just tap yes and you will, or there are options where you can say yes, and then it tells you where to deliver them to. And there are 3 distinct areas within the app of how they organize email. So I'll get into the 3 distinct areas in a second, but the email screening itself is genius, right? Which is just amazing. So, but if you go into the app itself, here in the inbox, the idea is that this is your important email. This is where emails from your family should come in and from people you actually know and things like that. This is all a brand new account. So I just have all their like kind of onboarding emails that they've sent you. But if I press the little action button in the middle, it gives this little menu and I can bounce between the inbox or the feed. And now the idea of the feed is it will take all the newsletters you sign up for. So if you sign up for Nextdraft or any website newsletter or anything like that, and it will structure when you do your email screening, you say, okay, this email should go into the feed, and it will structure these newsletters into a news-like feed experience. So it's almost like an RSS reader, but with these with those newsletter emails, which is great. Then if you go to the paper trail, the third section, the paper trail is meant for all of your receipts, your confirmations, any transactional emails you get. And the way it works is that the first time you get that confirmation purchase from Amazon, you flag it to go in the paper trail. All future emails go into the paper trail. And so what you're doing is you're creating these 3 distinct contexts for the type of messages that you're getting. And when you think about your experience with email, it really does break down into those 3 things. It's emails I want to get that I actually want to read from people I actually know. It's transactional emails, receipts, airplane bookings, train bookings, whatever transportation bookings you have, receipts, things like that, and then newsletters and informational. So the fact that they're creating these contexts that are easy to understand, easy to navigate, and then we'll remember them as you go is a pretty big deal. Then with furthermore within it, you can set to reply later. So if you see an email come through, you can put it into a reply later box, and it's got a great organizational way to remind you to go back and reply to those and all that sort of stuff. Or you can just set it aside. You can say, okay, I want to get to that, but later on it gives you different context for that. It also I get so much stuff sent to me via email with attachments. This breaks out email and files. So not only when you search for something, when let's say if I search for Jason Howell, it will show me Jason's contact information, all the emails he sent, but it'll also say, here are all the files Jason have sent. It's actually like a file browser within the email that separates the files from the emails. So when you tap all files, you can just see all of the files that you've gotten that are associated with your emails. So when I know that Flo sent me that photo 3 years ago, I can just look for that photo and find it. I don't need to dig to find the email. Now, finally, what they've got a ton of stuff in here. But what I think is fascinating about this, so I'm going to say yes because I want to get emails for myself. And so here I'm going to get this email. And so now, they're doing their whole little demo thing. So bear with me. I don't want to see it. But when you get, just ignore it. It's okay. But when you get an email, you have 3 actions that you can choose from in the little bottom navigation. You can just reply to it. You can say to reply later, put it aside, or if you hit the more button, there's one thing here that I love. Add note to self, right? You can add a note that is then associated with that email that only you see. So it could be the kind of thing where, like, if you got a big email, a work email with some detail or something like that, you can be like, oh, don't forget to ask this person this thing when you reply to them or something like that. So it's almost like adding a comment in a document, but to an email that only you see. The person who sent it to you doesn't see it, never gets sent. It's just purely focused in your experience. This is really the closest to a revolutionizing kind of approach to email that I've seen yet, and I've looked at a lot of email apps and things like that. So it's called Hey. So what's interesting is that it's like Gmail, in that you sign up and you get a email address at hey.com. So it's not set up to pull email from Gmail or from Yahoo or whatever it is. This is a new email account. So for some of you, that might be a non-starter because, like, I have my Gmail address and that's it. But honestly, like, I was talking to my wife earlier tonight and I was thinking about this. I used to think that getting a new email address would be like the worst thing in the world because people wouldn't be able to get in touch with me and things like that. But now, 20 years into email, it's almost like a natural way to screen out people. Where, like, Jason and Flo, if I told you this is my new email address, you'd go, oh, okay, and you just start emailing me there, right? Mm-hmm. So getting a new email address isn't that daunting. At least it's not as daunting as it used to be. But so you sign up, you can choose your username, you get it at hey.com. They do have instructions and tools to allow you to import your email from those platforms. So you can set up forwarding from Gmail to forward your emails from Gmail into Hey. But when you respond to those emails, they will look like they will be from your Hey account. They won't be from your Gmail account. So it is a pretty big change. But the functionality in this is kind of a game changer. And to be honest, they don't offer domain support. Like, so I have my own domains, so I can't set up my email on hey.com and have it be ron at ronxo.com yet. They said they are bringing that. If they bring that over and launch it, it's completely worth it to me as far as I'm concerned. Like, this app really blew me away and really impressed me. It's just a different approach to email, and email is something that I love and hate at the same time. The other interesting thing about it is that it does cost money. It costs $99 a year to use it. And if you look in the App Store listing on that section, they say, I'll read this verbatim because I'll give them, put it in their own words. You always pay for email. It said free email like other providers isn't free. You pay by giving up your privacy and valuable personal data. That's expensive. Since we don't sell ads or invade your privacy, we charge $99 a year for Hey. And that boils down to $8.25 a month. I'm not going to the movies anymore. Right? Like,
but you are sending emails.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Less than a movie ticket. Like, in terms of budgeting, $99 a year to own all my data, have it completely be private, not be served ads, not have it be monetized by another company or anything like that. That's actually a pretty compelling value prop. So it just really impressed me. So if you're looking for an alternative to Gmail, if you're looking to get off that old Hotmail address, if you're looking to make a move, or if you do have your own domain for email and you want to move off Google Apps or G Suite, keep an eye on Hey. I'm going to tell you, I'm keeping an eye on it myself. The moment they open up those other domains, I'm going to see how much it costs, because I'm paying Google now anyway for all that, and I'm giving them my data, and I'm letting it be, advertised against and all that stuff. So, but Hey is really kind of a game changer when it comes to email apps, and the app is really well done, and it's just worth looking at. So give it a shot. Go check it out at it's Hey Email in the Google Play Store, or go look at their website at hey.com. At minimum, go to hey.com today and get your email address, whether you pay them money or not. I didn't put a dime down into this yet. I haven't paid the $99 a year yet, but I reserved my username because I want to make sure that I can do it, similar to the land grab when Gmail launched. So if you're an email nut like I am, definitely go to hey.com, check it out. I really think that between the email screening, the contextual views, and then the little notes to yourself within emails. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. On their website, they have a list of their top 20 features. Like, they've really thought this through, and they're really going above and beyond to try to the file browser, the file aspect of it. They're really trying to, not just iterate on email or like try to do a bolt-on that works on top of Gmail or something like that. They just did it themselves. Oh, I totally forgot. Let's say you're on an email thread with somebody and someone changes the subject line, and now in Gmail, that's a whole new conversation. They have controls in here that you can merge conversations back into one conversation to keep them flowing. Like, it's little things like that, like the little things that annoy you about that email over the years, it seems that they've already picked up on. So hey.com is worth checking out. Hey, email. And that's my app spotlight for this week.
Nice. Little factoid here to insert on the end of this. Uncle Bick in chat pointed this out, so thank you for pointing this out. Back in the day, in the very early days of TWiT, an employee by the name of Dane Golden, who I believe was an editor for TWiT, one of the first employees of TWiT back in like 2006, he owned and owned up until very recently Hey.com.
No way.
And so he is the person that the folks at Hey.com put out a tweet that said, this payment, the $99 per year price. They said, this is how we plan to pay down the mortgage required to acquire Hey.com. So one of TWiT's first employees was the person to sell this domain to the company of the app.
What a fascinating small world. That's awesome. I love that. I didn't even know that. Very cool.
There you go. And it's funny you say it's small world, because Uncle Bick attached to that says it's a small world, but I wouldn't want to paint it. Quoted, attributed to Stephen Wright.
Yeah, that's a good one. But what do you get? But based on those features, what do you think that Hey is worth checking out, or like that? Those are pretty compelling stuff, right?
Super compelling. I would, I just always have hesitation about switching anything email related. But it sounds like you have too, and you're pretty happy with what you're seeing. So I definitely want to check it out and kind of see if it's seamless and if the additions are meaningful to me, in usage. And that's really what it's all about for me anyways. I don't know. Flo, what about you?
I'm pretty happy with TwoBird. But I do feel like a lot of the features that Ron mentioned, and somebody else has said this in the chat room, it sounds very much like what Inbox could have been. So
yes,
fair. I'll leave that there.
Yep.
What could have been?
Just real quick, Eric Duckman says, hope he got rich. That squatting is difficult. Apparently, he wasn't actually squatting. Dane was using that actively. And so they approached him, and he had been using it for his own work. So
what's so funny is that I have a couple of domains that I get hit up a lot about, like less than 5-letter actual words, like that sort of thing, or no, 6 letters. Yeah, 6 letters. And they always email me and they're like, hey, I'm working on a project. I'd love to know if this domain is for sale. And I'm like, well, it's not for sale, but feel free to change my mind. And no one has yet moved me to sell any of them. I'm just waiting for the day. It's going to happen eventually.
You never know. Yep, totally. All right, it's email time. We got some emails from you folks, and we appreciate you sending in your emails to AAA@twit.tv. Joseph writes in, says, longtime fan. On episode 480, y'all were talking about Android Wear watches. I have a first-gen Fossil Android Wear watch. I do love the watch, and yes, at first the battery would only last less than a day, about a day with battery save on, but last I got used to it, it got an update which put the watch in power save mode when it isn't being looked at, which helped battery life for a few extra days. That's nice. The other thing that I noticed was it now allows me to select which notifications I want, so it won't go off with every notification my phone gets. I feel like that's essential with a wearable. But I don't use the Fossil watch much because I wanted something I could wear to work and still get the caller ID notification, text notification. I also want the fitness tracking, so I bought the Xiaomi Mi Band 3 when it was new. The battery lasts about a month on one charge with all the notifications that I get and fitness tracking that I get, as long as I don't have the heart rate monitor constantly turned on. I like it because it's lightweight, and sometimes I forget I'm wearing it. So there's some wearable information, that might sway any of you looking for some recommendations as far as a good wearable to check out. I mean, these are two totally different devices, right? The Mi Band is just a fitness tracker compared to like a full like smartwatch, but something to consider. Yeah, I feel like you had a Mi Band at some point, Flo, didn't you?
I have to look it up. I don't remember.
Maybe not. I could be.
Yes, I
could
did.
be getting my flows.
Yes, I did. Oh no, I'm sorry. I did not. I had a Huawei fitness band that was of a similar aesthetic.
Right, similar approach. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for writing in. We appreciate your email, Joseph. Flo, you got the next one.
I'm up next. So this is our next email. So this comes from VIP Harshi, and VIP stands for visually impaired person, or just VI. They write in, so to speak on Will W's email last week, I wanted to clarify what he meant as far as RAM is concerned. Firstly, I think I heard correctly when the email was read that the person uses the term voice assistant. I think this is the perfect platform to educate people across the AAA TWiT sphere. Voice assistant is a screen reader, and not to be mistaken for an actual assistant as Google Assistant or Bixby.
Okay.
Yeah, the person has a Galaxy S7, which is truly a slow device. I personally have the Note 9, and RAM-wise, it's 6 gigabytes. So when it comes to the S10, there is roughly 6 to 8 gigs of RAM, and this in turn helps a lot with smoothness. My top choices would remain Pixel, Samsung, and the second half being LG, followed by OnePlus. Samsung screen readers are most closely related to iOS VoiceOver, whereas TalkBack is mainly a one-finger screen reader, and the latter being a multi-finger screen reader. I absolutely love this email. Thank you so much for writing us in about this. First of all, so sorry about just coming from this standpoint and not covering it from all sides. Not knowing. I mean, voice assistant, I feel like is very commonly used as a reference for these home assistants, right? True.
It's easy to confuse the two, but this is a perspective I didn't understand it. So yeah, thank you.
True. Well, and I just mean to bring that up as it's comes from a relative point of privilege, and I really appreciate that we have you folks to write us in and just kind of tell us about it. And I really like this perspective because these are things that I don't consider. But also it makes perfect sense that kind of bundling in more memory would make these things run a little smoother. So I think it lends credence to the fact that more RAM is better in the end of the day.
Yeah, right.
What we were operating on before was... Yeah, I mean, what we were operating on before was because that's what the capabilities were before, but the capabilities are so much more now. And so the user experience should be smoother for folks. And this is a great reason why. So thank you so much for writing in.
All right, Ron, you have it.
I am very honored. I'm honored to announce Flo?
What?
The sound.
I know. I'm introducing it. Paul, wait a moment.
Sorry.
Jeez, Flo, man.
I'm so sorry.
I'm very excited to be the bearer of this week's email of the week.
Yeah.
Thank you, Burke. That's a lovely fanfare. This week, Garrett writes in. He is our emailer of the week. Nope. There we go.
All right, good.
All right. So Garrett says, I've been a weekly listener to the podcast for the last 6 years, but this is the first time I'm writing in. First time, long time. Thanks, Garrett. I'm looking for an Android tablet for a specific task and thought you might be able to help me out. I am a pilot and would like to use a couple of aviation apps in the plane that I currently use on my phone on a larger screen. These apps display maps and approach charts that use GPS for orientation. They also connect via Bluetooth to my onboard avionics. I use a Pixel 3 as a daily driver and love it thanks to you guys. The tablet must have Bluetooth, GPS, a readable screen in the sun, and solid battery performance. After listening to a recent show, I thought I would go to Walmart and look at the On tablets. When I was there, I found two 8-inch tablets that I thought would work. The On 8-inch Tablet Pro and the Lenovo Smart Tab M8. I like the form factor of Lenovo, as I have many Google Assistant products around my home, and the thought that they may use better hardware. However, it's running Android Pie, whereas the On runs Android 10. As I'm sure neither will get updates to the OS, I'm more inclined to go with the On. I didn't know if you had any more information on either of these, and will they get security updates? And does one significantly outperform the other? Any help would be appreciated. And of course, Garrett, we are here to help you. First off, oh my God, you're a pilot and you're using a phone for aviation charts? Don't they have stuff like the cockpit's got lots of things in there? You need your phone still? That blew my mind. So I think our biggest thing is don't go with the On 8-inch tablet. Do not. Avoid Walmart. Also, don't go with the Lenovo Smart Tab M8. As you pointed out, updates are unlikely, and you do want to make sure those devices get updated. But also, they're bad in direct sunlight, like not good. Yeah. So you're saving money on cost, but you do pay for it in the end with a not great device. Right. So alternatively, we were talking earlier about Samsung and how great the Galaxy Tab line is. You might want to check out the Samsung Galaxy Tab A8, the Galaxy Tab A8. It's $125 on Amazon right now. And 2 weeks ago, it started getting the update to Android 10. And you can get, if you spend a little more money, you can get a quality tablet that's just a little more expensive than what we were about to spend, but will be a much better purchase down the road. And thank you, Jason, for doing the legwork on finding the Galaxy Tab info. I appreciate that. But is there any other tablets that we're not thinking of? I still love my Asus tablet. I do love that, but it is more expensive.
I'm so out of this zone. All I know is when people ask me, I usually go, have you tried Amazon? Have you tried Apple? Which I'm sorry, I realize I'm not doing my part here at all about Android, but I'm a little out of tune with this. I can kind of tell you what high-end tablet to get, but not something that's affordable and,
I do think the Galaxy is probably the best bet, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there really aren't a whole lot. Like there are the cheaps, which is kind of where at least my personal view, where the kind of the On tablet and even the Lenovo Smart Tab M8 kind of fall into that category. They're gonna be slower devices. And if you're using this and I guess when I read your email initially, I was thinking of any device that's being like referred to or relied upon when you're flying a plane. Like, don't go with the cheap of the cheap. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, step up a little bit for that. I just think you're too happy. Hey. Oh, hello. So I think you're going to be really happy.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'll explain it in a little bit.
Burke is going crazy.
It's not me.
Don't worry, Burke. We know that you really want to play that video, but just hold on a second. So I would say if you can spend up just a little bit, Samsung, you're probably going to get more of a dependable experience out of than the On. Yeah, it's only two ends, so it's a slightly longer. But yeah, that would be my recommendation. But what I was going to say earlier is there's like the lows in tablet, which kind of the On falls into, and then there's the premium tablets, and then everything in the middle is really kind of blurry and hazy, and there just isn't a whole lot in Android tablets in this world going on in that area that review well, that perform well. So it's really hard. It's hard to find a tablet like what you're looking for.
I would like to know more about these aviation apps that connect to the avionics in the plane. That sounds fascinating.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's crazy. Anyway, I was just looking on Amazon for tablets, and I thought I found one. There's a Samsung Galaxy SM, and it's an 8-inch tablet that's all rugged and rubberized, and I realized it's running Android 4.4. And it's for sale for $84, but it's probably not one you want to go with.
That one, all you're paying for is the rugged design. Yeah. That's like why it exists, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I say go with the Samsung Tab A. I think that's your best bet. I mean, for $120 on Amazon, that's not too bad. So
yeah. Yeah, and it's hard. And again, it's also hard to find one of these tablets that's new, like that's recent. Yeah. It's like anytime, like when I was doing my searching, it's like, yeah, there's that, but it's like a year and a half old already. Or there's that, at least this one, like, yes, it's a little less than a year old, but it did just receive its update. So you're at least guaranteed to have it. It isn't being left behind on Pi. It's on Android 10 now. Who knows if it's going to get 11? Probably not. But that gets you one step closer than I envision you would probably get with the on-brand tablet. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. So. All right. Well, Garrett, congratulations. Thanks for listening to the show for so long. Mm-hmm. Thanks for writing in. And you, too, could write in and become the email of the week. Just email us at AAA@twit.tv. That's AAA@twit.tv.
That's all you got to do.
Love the email of the week. Yep,
send in your emails and we will read them at the end of the show and pick one of them for the fanfare. Just one, though, gets the fanfare. That is it for this week. We have reached the end of this episode of All About Android. I'm not going to spoil anything, but you're not going to want to miss next week. Next week's a big week. And you're just going to have to wait to find out what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Flo, what you want to talk about? What you want to reveal or discuss?
Leave them guessing. You can go to florenceion.com, which is the Flow feed, and I actually updated it with a new article. So if you're looking for some weather app suggestions, I actually got a lot of comments from last week's show when I brought over Weather Live for the App Spotlight. And so I figured, why not just make a permanent page at my website where you can go discuss your weather app that you're using, whatever it is that you're doing to help get over the fact that dark sky is leaving us on Android. So that's sad, and that makes us sad, but that's why there's community to hold us up.
We have each other.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Exactly. So
Flo, do you own flowfeed.com?
I don't own flowfeed.com.
I'm going to.
Run!
I'm just doing the who is.
Someone else. You're asking me that, but
someone already owns it. Somebody already has it. That's too bad.
Possible, maybe I do own it. Is my husband bought all the domain names when he registered us, so I know he registered a couple for me. So maybe I will
tell you that flowfeed.solar is available.
Oh, yeah, that's the obvious one. That's the one you need.
Or flowfeed.wtf. That is available as well, too. Or flowfeed.plus, because, it's more. It's plus.
.plus.
Yeah, it's my new social network.
Yes.
There it is. Flowfeed Plus. Love it.
If it worked for Google, it didn't work.
Did it? Did it?
I don't think it did. Ron, what about you?
So you can follow me over at Twitter and on Instagram at RonXO. I do own RonXO.com, but I don't own RonXO.wtf. But most recently, I'm plugging a Twit thing. I was last Friday. I was on Twit After Hours, where I joined Mr. Ant Pruitt along with our good friends OMG Chad and Megan Maroney and some other great folks, and we played Clue, which was awesome. Nice. When we used an app to do it. I used the app, the Clue accessory app that plugged into the main app that was running the game. It was all app based. It was a lot of fun. I made a strategic miscalculation and shot myself in the foot early in the game. And just hanging out with that group, especially Chad and Megan, was always a blast. And of course, Ant and Lori. It was so much fun. So definitely go if you haven't watched that. It was a good time hanging with our Twit pals. So yeah.
Right on. Check it out. Thank you, Ron. Big thanks to Burke in the studio, and thanks to Victor behind the scenes for helping us do this show each and every week. We appreciate you guys. Thank you for that. As for me, twit.tv/HOA for Hands on Android. Last week's episode, which is up right now, is kind of a deep dive on the nearby sharing feature, which is essentially kind of like Android's AirDrop file sharing feature. So I have it, I show it off, how to use it, what to consider, that sort of stuff. Coming up this Thursday, it's going to be all about cloud backups. If you're wiping your device or switching to a new device, what do you need to know about backing up your Android device to the cloud or making sure that it's happening and that it goes seamlessly? So that's my episode that you can check out for in a couple of days, twit.tv/HOA. HOA. Do not forget to wear your mask. You might save someone's life. So just keep that in mind. And also, that's it for this episode. We're done. You can find this podcast publishing every Tuesday evening at twit.tv/AAA. Go there. You can find all the ways to subscribe, audio, video formats, podcatchers galore listed there, as well as YouTube. Link out and subscribe. We appreciate when you do that. But that's it. We'll see y'all next week on another episode of All About Android. Bye-bye.
Hey folks, it's Micah Sargent here, co-host of Smart Tech Today, right here on twit.tv. Every single week, Matthew Casanelli and I sit down to talk about smart tech for the week. That's right, it can get kind of complicated, but there's a lot of news out there. There's a lot of products to dig through. There are a lot of questions to answer, and we try to do that all every single week. From voice assistants to wearables to smart garage door openers and lights, there's so much to cover and, well, so little time. So be sure to check it out. It's twit.tv/STT. Oh, that rhymes.